Hello, good evening, folks. Please let me know you can hear me okay. I just been finishing a stream on our other channel about the data slate. There's not much to say about it. It's a frustrating situation. But good evening. We are here, 23rd of October. It's 2 months to Christmas already. Can you fucking believe that? Where's the year gone? We're going to be talking about army lists tonight. We have a bunch of lists as always. Let me pull up who we got tonight. We've got Andrew Westfall, Dean Gitley, LMK, Mr. Smith's government class. I did wonder that's a random name. And Peter Kosman. And next week we've got Careful Planning, Chris Bailey, JW, Kevin Kiefer, and PJ Murray. So army lists are coming thick and fast. And we are a little bit later than getting started tonight. So let me get straight into it. If you have questions in the chat, just fire them in there. And Mike says I get 3 notifications about the show. Sometimes notifications work. YouTube decides if notifications work. I have no control over it. Sometimes they come through, sometimes they don't. Anyway, good evening, Mike. Cronus Sayings here. Robert Carter, good evening, Jimmy. Jim and Chris, good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here. All right. And I really do appreciate the support. I always see a bunch of green names in the chat these days, which is super appreciated. It's nice to see all you guys. 1 second. Where's my live streaming tab? Yeah, here we go. All right, cool. Alright, ready to get into it. Dark Ginger, good evening. Okay, so Andrew, hey Blood Angels Commander, just made a new list. I'm taking it to Major in November. Secondaries are Relentless Assault, Death from Above, and opponent-specific secondary like Assassinate. Well, if you haven't downloaded my flowchart, please do download it. I suppose I'll update it with Shock Assault, now that Shock Assault might be useful. Yeah, I mean, if you haven't seen the flowchart, I'll just throw it up real quick just so you can see what it looks like. This was the flowchart that I made for Blood Angel secondaries, so you can work through the flowchart and you can pick a secondary that's always going to score a lot of points for you. Shock Assault was all the way down here. Shock Tactics, sorry. Shock Assault is the name of the rule. I reckon this is going to push it up like 2 points per game, so it probably brings it up to somewhere in around here, which is annoying. Basically a change right after a week after I make it, but that's fine. General game plan is to Furlong Fury Death Company forward and put Dreadnought, 5-man Sanguinary Guard, and Assault Squad into reserve. Dreadnought and Assault Squad come in on turn 2, Sanguinary Guard on turn 3. I never really have a plan of what turn my units are coming in on. When I put stuff in reserve, I just look for the best opportunity and bring them in when the opportunity presents itself. Also bringing lots of units into Deep Strike with Wings of Fire and a Jump Priest around for Icon of the Angel. Thanks for checking out. Icon of the Angel, we see quite a few people bring it. I don't run Icon of the Angel, and I don't feel like I really need it. I don't fail that many charges per game. I mean, it does happen, but I think I'd just rather not run Icon of the Angel and pay the 1 CP if I need to reroll a charge. Good evening, Bredown. Gitley, is your list on tonight? It is indeed. Carter says, I do have a question. Point of view on the value of running a large amount of Sanguinary Guard. Is it still our best bang for points, given that assault squads are fairly strong? Less Sanguinary Guard, or still go for large squads? I think Sanguinary Guard, you need a minimum of 12 in your list, and a maximum probably of like 21. So 2 times 6 is a minimum, 3 times 7 is a maximum. I think they're really an important unit. I definitely prefer them to assault squads. I generally prefer them to Death Company as well, but in my current list, I'm running 2 Death Company and 2 Sandguard, and the reason for that is points, right? Death Company are quite a bit cheaper. And yeah, I mean, Death Company have the Forlorn Fury threat, so you kind of do a bit of both. All right, you've got Dante here with who is the Warlord, which is good. We have the Selfless Healer with Icon of the Angel. I don't run Icon of the Angel or Selfless Healer. The 35 points for Selfless Healer just sort of makes me think that, like, why wouldn't I just take 1 more Sanguinary Guard or another Death Company with a hammer or something? If I want to res someone, I really find that I only get about 1 chance or maybe 2 chances per game to revive a model. So at that point, would I not just be better paying the 1 CP to revive a model if there's a chance to revive them? Don't need to waste the 35 points. And yeah, I mean, I guess typically if you move your guys efficiently, Blood Angels don't feel that many charges. Maybe if you're arriving units from Deep Strike, Icon of the Angel could have value, but overall I don't run it. 2 squads of Incursors and an Infiltrator squad, and I love Phobos troops. I think they're the best troop choice you can have. and I think these ones make sense. I think you can get away without any infiltrators, but I guess with these new demon rules, some people feel like infiltrators are a good unit to have to prevent those sort of like short-range demon deep strikes or manifestations. So, I mean, infiltrators is fine. When is Gitley's game? When is Gitley's list getting reviewed? It's getting reviewed in the stream, Thomas. I usually typically just do them in alphabetical order, so probably in like half an hour's time. Good evening, Brew and Biscuits. Alright, we got the Death Company Dreadnought with Heavy Flamer and Meltagun, and then 2 Blood Talons. And I've spoken about this before. I don't think the Blood Talons are a needed or worth pickup. Save the 10 points and just have 2 Furioso Fists. Blood Talon, the Furioso Fists are going to wound on 2s, and they're going to have 1 more point of AP. The Blood Talons are probably wound on 2s as well and let you reroll and have 1 less point of AP, so I think it's better to just save the 10 points and just have Fists, honestly. Death Company Marines. This is a 10-man squad. 2 Thunderhammers, 4 Infernal Pistols, 2 Power Fists, 2 Power Swords, and then another 4 Infernal Pistols. Like, holy shit. Okay, if you're gonna run this, if you're gonna run a 10-man Death Company, I kind of feel like you need to have Astrath and/or you need to have CP ready to Insane Bravery, because 2 CP. Sorry, Leadership 7 on a 10-man squad is horrendous. I guess Dante makes it leadership 8 if he's within 9 inches. I don't like a 10-man Death Company. I think the 5 is much stronger, personally. I think the 5 means you can Furlong Fury cheaper. You can also put, if you want to run 2 5s, you can put them on different sides of the map, and that gives you like more threat because the opponent will have to like second guess. Blood Talons are cooler. Yeah, okay, Blood Talons are cooler, but yeah. So if you're like Tony and you're a narrative player or you're a more lord race person, put Blood Talons on them. If you want to win games, put the Power Fists on them. Or the Furioso Fists, I think they're called. Are they just called Fists? Furioso Fists? Whatever they're called. The Death Company claw thing that doesn't cost any points. You got the Sangre Ancient with Soul Warden and Wrath of Baal, and if you're running Wrath of Baal, I really don't think you need Icon of the Angel, right? All your jump units are moving 14 inches, you're jumping from cover to cover, your Furlong Fury Death Company can move 26 inches, I mean, why would you need reroll charges? I think it's wasted CP. For Sanguine Guard, you've got 2 7s, all with swords, and then you've got a 5 with 1 Infernal Pistol and all with axes. I'd honestly mix the squads. I always think mixed squads are better because you never know what they're going to run into the battlefield. So when you start losing models, pull off the ones that don't make the most sense. If you're fighting orcs, pull off like the swords, because swords are only going to wound orcs on 3s, whereas axes would wound them on 2s, so I think mixed squad is best. I also don't like a 5-man squad, so I would probably go 7, 6, 6. I think 6s are fine. I don't like the 5. I think the 5 can bounce off targets, I guess. Then you've got the Assault Squad, which has got the Infernal Pistol and Power Sword, the 2 guys with Plasma Pistols, the other 2 with Chain Swords and Bolt Pistols, and then you've got 2 Attack Bikes with Multi-Meltas. Yeah. 2 Attack Bikes alone feels a little bit weak in terms of fire support. I mean, I guess it's something. 3 Squads of Sandguard is good. I would go 7, 6, 6. The Assault Squad is fine. The Death Company, I guess you have to go with a 10-man squad because you hit the max elite choices. I don't know how you get the Dreadnought across the board. Did you say you were going to... The game plan is to furlong the Death Company and so you're going to put the Dreadnought in reserve? I mean, I guess he's quite expensive to put in reserve. 7 power level. How many points does this list even start with? 3. So you're going to pay 1 for the Death Company. Okay, so you're starting on 2 CP. Yeah, I mean, the Death Company Dreadnought in reserve, I suppose, is okay. I guess because it doesn't... Icon of the Angel. Remind me, is it only core units that get the reroll of charges? Like, the Death Company Dreadnought isn't going to be able to reroll his charge. I forget, I don't run Icon of the Angel. Oh no, it's any Blood Angels model. Okay. No, I mean, that's better then. I guess if you can bring in the Dreadnought tactically next to the Priest and you can get a free reroll, because he's going to have to make an 8-inch charge. But yeah, remove the Blood Talons, that saves you 10 points. I don't like a 10-man Death Company, I just don't. I think a 5-man Death Company with like Chapter Master rerolls and the Assault Doctrine will usually trade up, so why you need a 10-man? I think a 10-man just leaves a lot of models on the table in your opponent's side of the board, which they will then mop up and if you go like 5 Infernal Pistols, 5 Power Swords, or like 5 Thunder Hammers, Death Company, then you already do a boatload of damage. If you don't like 5 Death Company with Thunder Hammers, with Chapter Master rerolls, with Assault Doctrine, like they probably can just about kill a knight. Or, I mean, they can definitely put it into lowest bracket. So, throw in your cheap Death Company, like 165 points, pretty much half this. Put the knight into lowest bracket. Now it's only hitting you on 5s. You can mop it up with something else. I don't think you need to give up 5 more Death Company Marines on another 150 points and leave them open in your opponent's deployment zone. As well, if you're doing like Relentless Assault and you're wanting multiple units to jump forward every turn, then having 2 5-man Death Company for me, and especially with their shitty leadership of 7, I don't know why their leadership's so low, it just is. I'd split it up. Gav says they would opt against the Dread personally. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Dreadnought, Gav. I don't run it myself. It doesn't have core keyword. You're banking on an 8-inch charge. One melt-the-gun shot can be unreliable. I'd split this and run 2 5-man Death Company, and then I'd probably spend this 145 points on some sort of fire support in this list. I'm running that new Storm Speeder. That would work, honestly. And it would save you a CP. Like, you're having to spend a CP to put this Dreadnought into reserve. I mean, if you lost the Dreadnought, I suppose you could have split the Death Company up, and then you could go like a second squad of Assault Marines and a third attack bike here. I think having 3 attack bikes is a lot more valuable with Selfless Healer as well, because you're much more likely to have an attack bike left to revive an attack bike, and reviving a bike every turn is pretty powerful if the bikes manage to hold on. 2 bikes to me feels like they can be cleaned up and shooting pretty easily. 3 bikes does take a bit of an investment from the enemy to kill them, especially if you have them near like a Rites of War character or not Rites of War, a Soul Warden character, which I think I saw that you had one, yeah. So the bikes have like a 5-up and 8 against mortal wounds, and they can also have a 6-up, feel no pain. The one thing that I don't like in this list, and I think I would change, would probably be, like, you don't have Rites of War, and I think Rites of War is really powerful. Arguably, I think Soul Warden and Rites of War are 2 most powerful abilities, and I like to have both. And this is why Dante doesn't work for me in my list, because Dante's great that he gives you a CP, but I'd much rather have a Chapter Master that has Rites of War. I guess it's personal preference, but I think if you were playing at like really high level, you'll get more value out of Rites of War than the extra 3 inches Dante's Warlord trait would give you, but he's not even running Dante's Warlord trait anyway, actually. Yeah, I didn't notice that. So he's not running the Dante's Warlord trait. I'm so used to being it built into his profile. So yeah, this Death Company then is actually Leadership 7, which is really shitty because you'll probably lose some models. Well, you will lose some models and you'll probably feel leadership. And yeah, I think that I would trade the additional CP that Dante gives you for Rites of War 100% of the time. Hello, I have no idea how to say your name in Russia, but thanks for joining in. I think that's Russian or Ukrainian or some sort of Eastern European language. I'm sorry, I don't know. I can't say your name. Soul Warden is nice on the Priest. I actually prefer Soul Warden not on the Priest because I think it gives you those 2 bubbles of Feel No Pains, Carter. If you put Soul Warden on the Priest, then you're kind of overlapping your 2 Feel No Pain bubbles on the one character, so I much prefer to put them across multiple characters, and we do see this in high-level play as well. High-level players tend to have, like, the Priest with Rites of War, and then, like, a Captain or a Chaplain or something with Soul Warden, or you can do it with what is it, Litany of Faith, but I guess Soul Warden is more reliable than Litany of Faith, and obviously Litany of Faith also only does core units, so that's why I like Soul Warden much better. Brew and Biscuit says, is it better to split them? Yeah, 100% it is, Brew. Yeah, so in this list, the thing I don't like is the Death Company Dreadnought. If you're dead set on it, at least drop the Blood Talons. Maybe think of changing out Icon of the Angel. See if there's a way to get Rights of War in here. Concern about the 10-man Death Company. No one's really running 10-man Death Companies at the moment. I haven't seen it in any tournament play. The people on this channel that used to really like 10-man Death Company have kind of gone away from it. Maybe it's just a CP thing with Nephilim. And I don't like a 5-man squad of Sanguinary Guard. I also think one Infernal Pistol and a squad of Sanguinary Guard is kind of worthless. If you're going to do Infernal Pistols, you need to have like a little bit of weight of fire. So I wouldn't do less than 2. More than 2 is better, but one is just too hit or miss. You know, it's like one shot from an Infernal Pistol. You have to hit, you have to wound, they have to fail or save. There's a lot of variance there. Like most of the time, if you just have one Infernal Pistol, maybe like 1 in 5 games it'll actually do damage. So yeah, that's my opinion, Andrew. Hopefully that helps. Let's move on to the next list, because like I did say, we started a bit later tonight and I don't want to be up too late. Okay, Dean. Finalising my list before I go out and buy, and I thought I'd try and get some input. The Company Vet, Sternguard Champion, and Chatplane all go in a drop pod, hoping to score a Relentless Assault or Blade of Sanguinius. And Blade of Sanguinius was the surprise when we looked at tournament data, in that like it's actually one of the worst scoring secondaries that Space Marines have access to, I guess, because I guess Blade of Sanguinius does require you to kill one single character, and the opponent can obviously like hide that character, or you can just get no points if you unintentionally don't manage to kill them, I guess, right? Alright, so we've got a Company Champion with the Blade of Triumph. That is that 3 damage power sword that is also -3. I think it's strength 7, so it's basically a 3 damage relic blade. He also has Martial Exemplar, which is reroll of core units around him for charges, right? So like when you're coming out of the drop pod, this guy's going to let you reroll charges for anything else coming out of the drop pod. You've got 3 veterans, 2 with combi meltas, 3 with combi meltas, 3 with power swords. Interesting choice. We don't really see that, but I mean that's fine. We have a Chaplain with Cantle of Hate, so you can get that additional +2 to your charges. We've got a Chapter Master with an Infernal Pistol and a Relic Blade and a Jump Pack. He's the Warlord. We have a Sanguinary Priest who is Chief Apothecary. We've seen a lot of people come back to this Chief Apothecary, and for the record, like very few people play this at tournament play. I think Sam is the only person that's still playing Chief Apothecary, and Sam does get like good results with Blood Angels. But like a lot of the other high-level Blood Angels lists have kind of moved away from Chief Apothecary. Rights of War to me is a better pickup on this character. And then he's got Visage of Death, which Visage of Death is kind of like, I guess, Rights of War light. It removes OBSEC, but only within 3, whereas like Rights of War is adding OBSEC within 6. My name is Slavic. I'm Ukrainian. How to read Vlad. Thank you. You're so passionate about Angels. I decided to revive my collection. All right. Thank you, Slavic, for coming to watch the stream, and thank you as well for telling me how to say your name, because I would have had no idea. Welcome. I am passionate for Blood Angels. They're only army I do, man. I don't have time to do any other armies with my kids, but yeah, I do generally love them. All right, we've got Assault Intercessors, Incursors, and Infiltrators. No problems with these. I prefer when the troop choices are all Phobos units because of the guerrilla warfare, but I'm fine with running like one squad of Assault Intercessors. That's what I do myself. Good evening, Cal. How you doing? We have 5 Blade Guard Veterans. And Blade Guard Veterans dropped off so much since Armor of Contempt. We very rarely see them now. I don't think they're a bad unit, and they do get more attacks for a 5-man squad than like essentially what 5 Sanguinary Guard get. But I think Sanguinary Guard are just as survivable now, probably maybe even more survivable, because a 2-up save with -1 onto AP is better than just a 2-up flat save 4-up in Van. I mean, unless Sanguinary Guard are getting hit with like -4 weaponry, there's very little difference there. I suppose the Blade Guards do have 3 wounds. They just dropped off hard. I guess I don't think they're bad. Just the delivery method for Blade Guard is a question mark for me, right? Like you just have to run them across the board, advancing, and then you're at the mercy of the dice Whereas with Sanguinary Guard, it's just much more reliable. You're jumping from cover to cover. Even with a 1 on your advanced roll with their Sanguinary Guard, they're moving 14 inches. That usually easily gets you from a piece of cover to another piece of cover. In cover, Sanguinary Guard save is ridiculously good. It's a 1-up with -1 AP, which again is still better than the Blade Guard. And I guess to make your save worse than the Blade Guard at that point, you would need to be, because minus on a 1-up on -4, that would be a 5-up. So you would need to be hit with -5 weaponry in cover to have a worse save than the Blade Guard. So at that point, I think like there's no reliable form of like -5 weaponry in the game, right? So like that's why I guess Sanguinary Guard just get picked a lot more over Blade Guard now. I don't think they're bad. I think if I was going to run Blade Guard, I'd run 3 of them, and I'd have them like sit on a backfield objective, or I'd have them bodyguard a character or something like that. Like I don't see a big advantage to 5-man squad when I could just take Sanguinary Guard now. You get the Death Company with 5 hammers, which is totally fine. I think you'd probably get away with 4 hammers in the squad. I think 4 hammers do generally enough damage to trade up all the time. But I mean, if you want to put the 5th hammer in there, that's fine as well. We got 2 8-man squads of Sandguard. And I think that's too much. I think Sandguard typically work with Chapter Master rerolls and Assault Doctrine. And if you have that, you're usually on like a 7-man squad gets 35 attacks. And remember, these are 2 damage attacks, and they'll wound on 2. Sorry, they'll hit on 2s, rerolling 1s, and then they'll wound reasonably reliably. So I think that like I've ran 8-man Sanguinary Guard squads before, and I think it's the wrong number. I think 7's probably the ideal number. I think you can get away with 6, and I'm running 6 in my current lists, but like I said, I do think 7's probably the ideal number. 8 feels like, because when Sanguinary Guard do get focused down, they die fairly quickly. So I think just having a bigger squad, like an extra guy, doesn't actually help, because when they get focused down, they get focused down. So if a 7's getting annihilated by a unit, then probably an 8's getting annihilated as well. So Camille says, greetings, what do you think about 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts as some range firepower? It's not only cheap, but better AP than Contemptors. I've run 2 Redemptors in tournament play, Camille, and I've gone 4-1 in GTs running the 2 Redemptors. The problem with the Redemptors is, and I think the problem with the Redemptors is the plasma. Like, you have to take the plasma, and the plasma is D6 shots. And in tournament play, well, re-rolling the number of re-rolling in general, like command point re-rolling is like the lowest value you can get from command points, I think. Like it just generally is bad to have to spend CP on re-rolls. The plasma on Redemptors is unreliable. When you need it to be reliable in tournament play, it won't be. If Redemptor's plasmas was like 3 shots rather than like D6, I'd probably be much more open to Redemptors. But with D6, you're leaving some of your tournament result in the hand of the dice gods. And I guess that's the same with the Volkite Contemptors, where you get 6s to do the mortal wounds on the Volkite cannons. Sometimes it's okay to put a bit of your army list into the dice gods, but Double Redemptor is a strong option. It does win games. When you roll that 6 on the plasma, it feels awesome, and you will kill things, and you will, you will do well with them. But at the top table, you'll end up rolling a 1 for the number of shots in plasma when it really matters in a game, and you want to kill something, and it'll have a big swing. What would I take as 500 points fire support, which can be as close as Redemptors? Well, that's the ongoing argument with Blood Angels, isn't it? That it's really difficult to find some fire support that's like as survivable as Contemptors and also core, or Redemptors. Redemptors, they're like interchangeable, I guess, right? To try and find something that's as reliable as them, that's also core, that maybe even doesn't fill an elite slot for Blood Angels, because obviously we want our jump units in elite slots. It's really difficult right now, and I don't think there is actually. I don't actually think there is a good answer to that. In the recent weeks, I've been running that new Storm Speeder, and I've been enjoying playing it. But we'll see. I guess I'm going to take it to tournament in the near future. Grav Devastators. I mean, yeah, the problem with Grav Devastators is how do you deliver them? You're going to take a drop pod. I mean, All right. We've got a Sternguard veteran squad with five combi melters. So what's in the? So he's got a drop pod. What's in the drop pod? Company vet, Sternguard, and the champion and the chaplain. I think the. I mean, all these combi melters. Five combi melters. So you've got 8 combi melters. It seems strange to take 8 combi melters, but have a chaplain to give you +2 to charge, and a priest to give you sorry, not the priest. The chaplain to give you +2 to charge, and the champion to give you reroll to charges when you have 8 combi melters in the drop pod. Like, it feels like if you're gonna put 8 combi melters in the drop pod, I'd put Tycho in the drop pod, because Tycho's gonna get like, you reroll hits of ones, and he's gonna give you another combi melter. So like the chapter champion feels like the wrong choice if you're feeling like chapter champion with rerolls of charges and an aura and the +2 to charge from the chaplain make loads of sense if you've got Death Company in the drop pod, or you've got Vanguard veterans or company veterans with lightning claws. But if you're gonna reload up in combi meltas, then surely you just want Tycho to give you rerolls for the combi meltas, right? Then you got the last Fusel Eliminator squad, and then you've got the drop pod. Yeah, I think the ideas have got mixed here a little bit. Like 1 Death Company, 2 Sangre Guard, and Blade Guard. I mean, you could probably replace those Blade Guard with another squad of Sangard, or you could go with another squad of Death Company. I think both of those right now are probably better than the Blade Guard. Unless you're going to take the Blade Guard straight to the middle of the board and try and hold the middle. Did I just suggest Tycho? Yeah, I mean, if you're going to take 8 guys with combi melters, then you're going to get more value out of Tycho than you are going to get out of a champion that lets you reroll charges, right? The Eliminators are fine. Good for holding a backfield objective. The troop choices are fine. I feel like you don't have Rights of War in this list. I feel like you probably easily add it to your Warlord. I would rather add Rights of War to my Chapter Master here and lose Visage of Death off the Priest. I think that would be more appealing to me. I think you want Rights of War over Visage of Death. I think it provides more value. An 8-man Sangre Guard squads feel to me the wrong size. I mean, you could make these 2 7s, and then you could switch out this Blade Guard for, some people. There's a lot of strength in 3 squads of Sangre Guard. I mean, it's they're one of our most damaging units, arguably the most damaging units. Yeah, it would give all your melee, it would give all your combi melters reroll 1s to hit, and I mean that's going to be at least there's going to be a couple of failed hits out of those, aren't they? 8 combi melters, you're probably going to miss 2 or 3 times, so maybe getting to reroll some of them. What's up, Diggs? Hello. Yeah, so I think the company champion and the chaplain make a lot of sense if you're going to go melee out the drop pod. If you're going to go shooting out the drop pod, then take a character that's going to help the shooting. I mean, what else did he say? So he's doing Relentless Assault, and he said he was going to take Blade of Sanguinius. I mean, Blade of Sanguinius, I guess, will be fine in this list if you put it on the. I guess maybe he's going to try and assassinate the enemy with the Chapter Master. Like I said, I don't see a huge value in the Chief Apothecary. I would rather run a Sangre Priest with a jump pack and Rights of War over one that's a Chief Apothecary and Visage of Death. And I'd save 35 points, and I'd save myself a command point, and I think I get the same value. And if I do get an opportunity to revive someone, then I'll just pay the 1 CP. Eliminators with last fusels, to me, I tend to agree with you, Reziel. 2 shots at strength 8 -3, 3 damage. It's okay. I don't think you can buy Tycho Jim anymore. I think they discontinued him. I think it's fine. Eliminators are more about maybe screening for another unit, or maybe just forward deployment to mess with the enemy. In practice, I guess if you want to make las fusils and eliminators work, you probably need to run multiple squads of eliminators with las fusils. The move shoot move is good if you remember to use it, I guess. Lionheart says, I've put Blade Guard into my Dark Angels force rather than my Blood Angels force. I feel they work better with Inner Circle for the Dark Angels. That's probably right, because the thing about like Sanguinary Guard and Death Company is usually you can jump them into cover so they never get shot. Whereas when I used to run Blade Guard, they quite often would get shot or mortal wounded to death trying to get up the board because they were the one unit that wouldn't make it from cover to cover. And this is probably one of the reasons that I started reserving my squad of assault intercessors every game and making them into an action monkey squad. Because when I didn't reserve my assault intercessors and I started them on the board, every time you try and move them across the board, they just get picked off. So like if you only have one or two squads that are moving across the board that are going to be the squads that are visible and in line of sight, then they're going to get picked off. It doesn't matter if it's Blade Guard, it doesn't matter if it's assault intercessors. I suppose in the last list it doesn't matter if it's that dreadnought. If the opponent can only see one squad, they're going to kill one squad. Most armies have enough shooting to kill one squad, especially if it's the only squad they can see. So at that point, I don't think a 5-man Blade Guard worked for me. Maybe the exception to the rule there is if you want to take Blood Angels and you want to take that 325-point Centurion squad with a Priest, and it's fucking stupid to try and shift the Centurions and they just march across the board, and anytime the opponents kill one, then you just revive a Centurion at the front of the squad and get 2 inches additional movement, or maybe even more, because Centurions are in giant bases. So you probably get like 4 inches additional movement if you just put them at the front of the squad. So like making charges. You can probably, if you advance the Centurions forward turn 1, they kill one, you revive it 4 inches forward, you put them forward turn 2, you're probably into your opponent's deployment zone in like turn 3. Maybe you even manage to make a charge at the end of turn 2, and then Centurions can murder whatever they're into. So, yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Yeah, if you're struggling to do fire support, I mean, you could do what I did and you can bring in a super heavy tank, but I mean, super heavy tank is more of a fun thing than a serious thing. Like, I thought I might have a chance of winning a tournament with a super heavy tank, and I didn't do badly. But super heavy tanks can be difficult. They obviously can't be obscured, and they take up a huge amount of your like army composition, which can kind of limit you in other ways. Alright, Gitley says, could I please submit my latest list for review? Interested to hear your thoughts. I suspect this list is not your style. List is built around Relentless Assault, Theory of the Lost, Retrieve Nakman Data. Well, Nakman Data is my style. The other secondaries like Blade of Sanguinius Assassinate could be swapped out in the right situation. So it's 3 CP, 2,000 points. Okay, it's got Dante as the Warlord, which is fine. I think Dante's fine. He's not my favourite. Death Company Captain with an Infernal Pistol and a Thunderhammer. No Warlord trait on here, which is interesting. I guess, like, what about mastercrafting this Thunderhammer? I mean, if you're taking him for... oh, you said Blade of Sanguinius, maybe. 4 damage Thunderhammer could be pretty tasty, Gitley. It's something that I often... I used to run it a lot in last edition. I used to always end up mastercrafting last edition's Thunderhammers with my captains, but... then we have the Sanguinary Priest, who again is the Chief Apothecary with Icon of the Angel. That seems to be coming up a lot today. I don't know. I mean, I've played it. I've played it with Icon of the Angel. I've played it with Chief Apothecary. I prefer to just, if I'm going to run my Priest, keep him cheap. Sometimes I like to give him Rights of War. I guess that's your own personal preference here on the how you gear up your Priest, I guess. Infiltrators ×2 and Cursors ×1. Totally fine. Infiltrators obviously are going to help a lot against the new demon lists, and infiltrators in general are great for screening. 2 squads of infiltrators can arguably screen like half the board. It's crazy actually when you measure out the 12 inches from them, how much they can screen the board. Death Company, we've got 2×5 Thunderhammers. We've got that one squad, this is my new favourite Death Company squad, honestly. The 5 Infernal Pistols, 5 Power Swords. Really good option if the opponent are going to have stuff in transports, right? Because you give them Chapter Master rerolls, that's 5 Infernal Pistols, you're probably hitting with all of them, you're probably wounding on like 3s, so you're going to have to make some saves. If you use the Sangre Ancient with the Wrath of Baal to get that 26-inch turn 1 move, possibly some of those Infernal Pistols are even half range, so I think you can do a lot of damage with a squad. And, 25 power swords at -4 as well with Chapter Master rerolls is also amazing. So yeah, this Death Company isn't my new favorite. I'm going to be making. If you've been watching my stream recently, I'm literally painting Death Company with power swords and Infernal Pistols, and I'm adding more all the time. And I'm adding some with just power swords. I'm adding some just with Infernal Pistols. So I have flexibility. I mean, I could have done it with magnets. I probably should have done it with magnets, but you know what? I get so many old Death Company models, and a bunch of them are metal, and a bunch of them are already made. So, plus I don't actually dislike having a shitload of Death Company because I love the models, and why would I not want 40 painted Death Company? I mean, I've got that many. It's just a case of painting them all, so I'm doing it. But I really like the squad. If you haven't tried this squad, try it. Gitley's obviously seen value in it. I've seen a lot of value in it. It's a fun squad. You then have Ancient with the Rite of War and Wrath of Baal, so I like this a lot. The one negative part of it, I guess, is it gives you 4 characters, but I think it's the thing about 4-character Blood Angel list probably means that, like, you can hide your characters. Like, so picking Assassinate into this isn't totally terrible, because your characters obviously move really fast, and you've got a priest there, so you can throw some wounds back on them as well. What I don't like, though, is spending this many points. You're spending 575 points, if my maths is correct, on characters, which in my opinion is just too much. I think like anything over like 350 points in characters, I dislike it because the game isn't a Hero Hammer game anymore. But I mean, you do have your 4 Death Company units in there, so potentially Fury of the Lost scoring should be decent. All of these units are very killy. You then have 2 squads of Sangre Guard, and they're both 7s, and they're both double Infernal Pistols. And I talked about this already in the stream, saying 1 Infernal Pistol is shit. So this is good that you've got double, and it's all swords, which is fine. If you had a couple of guys with axes, I would honestly put 2 guys with axes into each squad, because it means, again, depending on the enemy you're playing against, you lift off models that are going to be less effective in that matchup, right? And there will be matchups like that. Orcs is a good example in that, like, if you have axes, you'll typically wound orcs on 2s, and they're still going to get no save. Whereas on the sword, you'll wound them on 3s, and they'll get no save. So if you're playing against, like, Marines, you'd be picking off the axe guys, because the AP sucks against Marines. But if you're picking against orcs, you'd be picking off the sword guys, because wounding on 2s is a lot better than wounding on 3s, right? And then you got your whirlwind in there as well. Why did you think this wasn't going to be my style, Gitley? Because I literally ran a very, very similar list to this. I ran, I think it was 3 Sangre Guard with the Ancient and 1 Death Company, 1 Lightning Claw Vanguard Vets, which is similar, I guess. The Whirlwind, Commander Dante, I think I ran Mephiston, and then I used Adaptive Strategy to get my Death Company into Assault Doctrine in turn 1. But, like, and I think the extra points I had for, like, not having that 3rd character, because I ran this with 3 characters, was I just had a squad of Eradicators rather than this Death Company captain, right? So I've run pretty much a list like this to it was an RTT. How would I build Assault Centurions, asked Camille. Personally, I'd probably just build them with Flamers, because Flamers will make them harder for the enemy to charge, and their drills are like strength 10, -4, 3 damage, I think. So I don't think you need Meltas, because the second you charge something, you kill them in combat. And then I don't necessarily think you need to spend 10 points per model for the Hurricane Bolters. Hurricane Bolters, is that the name of them? Yeah, I think I might build this Sergeant Camille with a Hurricane Bolter, because then you could put Quake Bolts on them, and getting +1 to hit would be pretty good, because then all those drills would be hitting on 2s. So that's one way I would do Centurions. But the 3 that I built were all Flamers, and I magnetized the little chest missiles so that I could put in either a Hurricane Bolt or the Assault Launchers. I do have axes, but I'm finding a lot of the power armor, such as Space Marines. Yeah, I mean, I guess it is nice to have, like, I run all my squads with 5 swords, 2 axes at the moment, because I usually run 7s, or I run 4 swords, 2 axes. And yeah, I mean, I play a good amount of Armor of Contempt stuff. But I also play orcs here and there. I also play Eldar here and there. So having the extra strength and the extra strength from the Sangre Guard weapons just makes wounding. So it's weaker against some, it's stronger against others. Good evening, Cyberwolf. Thomas, I do like the list. It's so damn fast. Yeah, I mean it is, but the weakness in a list like this is you have probably just, well, you've got no counter to psychic, and you've got no soul warden, and you've got no units that can really trade. Really, if you're playing Sisters, Repentia, this list's gonna have big problems. If you're playing any of these new like Creations of Bile, a fight on death, you got big problems. And then, having played a list like this at a tournament, I actually played a tournament where the train was fine all the way to the final table, and in the final table, the train was really sparse in the middle, and I got slaughtered because there wasn't enough stuff to hide behind. So, this list is overall, like, I don't really have many critiques. You could save a few points here by going 4 Thunderhammers. You could probably get away with 1 squad of infiltrators. What would that let you do? Maybe it would let you have like a maybe it would let you have like, it would be like 45 points. Maybe you could fit in a squad of Voidsmen, so you'd have 1 other unit that could do like retrieve Nakman data. You mentioned that. The Voidsmen are pretty good. They guarantee it for 50 points. But personally, yeah, I mean, I've played lists like this as well, and I played lists like this to tournaments, and you can win games. I just dislike now. I don't think I'll run any list that spends over like 450 points on characters. At the moment, my characters are like a Chapter Master, which is 165, Mephiston, which is 140, and the Priest at 120. I was thinking I might add a 65-point Inquisition, like a Psyker, to my list. That could be an option. So like 490, but that's really pushing it. Like I don't think you should go higher. Like I don't even know if I should go higher than that. Like 425 points on characters is a lot. This list spends 575. Remember, what was it? What did we just say? 420, like 575 minus 425. Well, that's 150 points. So that's a 5-man Sanguinary Guard squad. Like if you compare like a 5-man Sanguinary Guard squad against like a Death Company captain, a Death Company captain's what, like 6 attacks or something with a Thunderhammer, whereas like a 5-man Death Company squad, 5-man Sanguinary Guard squad is 25 attacks. So on one side you've got 5 3-damage attacks, on that, which is potentially 15 damage. On the other side you've got 25 2-damage attacks, which is 50 damage. That's one of the reasons, I guess. That's a big reason that like I usually try and stay away from 4 characters. And also, I stay away at the moment from lists like this because I think that if you don't have the right number of fire support units, you'll get gatekeeped at tournaments. In that, like, you'll come up against a list that you can't beat. And I came up against a Space Wolf list where like he just made everything fight last. I came up against an Eldar list where everything fought last. I came up against the Sisters of Battle where everything fights on death. So like there's too many things in the meta that make this, like, these lists will do well, don't get me wrong. Like we keep seeing lists like this do well, like top 5 finishes, top 3 finish, maybe a top 3 finish, but you'll just come unstuck. Like yeah, you can't build lists that will beat everybody, but I prefer to not build a list like this. And I've tried it. I wanted to make it work, but like you'll just run into something where it's just like, oh, I can't win this game. And I mean, maybe you can win the game if you play exceptionally and the dice are always on your side, but like on paper, if you come up against, like, if this list comes up against the Sisters of Battle list with like Morgan Val, 3 squads of Zephyrim, 3 squads of Repentia, and then like 2 squads of Retributors with multi-meltas, like you cannot win that game unless you're like, if you're playing an opponent of equal skill, you cannot win that game, right? Like you just can't win it because every squad of Zeraphim is 110 points, and they will be able to charge any of these squads, and they'll be able to wipe the squad. You'll lose the entire squad. So they'll spend 110 points to kill 220 points. On paper, if they do that once, that's not so bad, right? But then you'll then have to charge a squad of like Repentia with a Sanguinary Guard, and then guess what? You'll kill 100 points of Repentia, but then you'll lose a 220 point squad of Sangard. So you just have to make negative trades in every single combat in the game, and like it's unwinnable. So yeah, I mean, take it to a tournament if you want, Gitley. There's nothing else to say. You can do really well. You can probably get a top 5 finish. Can you win an event with a list like this right now? Probably not. Nobody's doing it. People have tried. Nobody's doing it, I guess. Hey, good evening, Inks. What's the answer to what? Sorry. What else have I missed in chat? Daxes are good against toughness 5 armies like Orcs, Scorpic, and Necrons. Yeah, and also Custodes, because Custodes have those really good armor saves and the higher toughness as well, John Turner. So Axes help there as well. Was there another question on that list? My problem with getting... taking this to 3 tournaments in next month, says Gitley. Well, I mean, good luck, dude. I don't know how you beat... I don't know... Well, I mean, fair enough, you've beat Sisters plenty of times, but if you're playing against a really high-level Sisters player, he should be able to beat that. Like, if I had a Sisters of Battle list, like that... I was going to say, like, 3 squads of Zeraphim, Morgan Val, and 3 squads of Repentia are, like, less than 1,000 points. And I think that, like, just those units can beat that list regardless of like the other 1,000 points of what Sisters have, because all those trades all day long can be advantageous to the Sisters player, where like if you jump in, yes, you kill a 100-point squad. If he jumps in, he kills a 200-point squad. And yeah, I mean, Sisters also scoring insanely high at the moment as well with their secondaries. So like yeah, good luck, I guess. Anytime I play a Sisters list like that with that sort of all melee list, like my heart just sinks. Like I don't know. And the Sisters player that I play, Andrew, I mean, he's a decent player, but like he doesn't even focus on Sisters as his main army. Andrew jumps around on all sorts of armies. So if you're playing a Sisters player that is their main army and they play that all the time, like I don't know how you beat it. I mean, on paper you shouldn't beat it, right? If you beat it, great job, but like on paper, mathematically, you should not beat that list. He has the tools that counter everything that you can do. Okay, LNK Trash is the 4th list for today, and he's starting on 5 CP. So straight away, I'd probably say like 5 CP is a lot to be starting on now. You can. Would you start trading with 90-point assault squads? If we think that they can do the damage, I mean, that would help, right? Yeah. I need to know if a 90-point assault squad can actually kill a squad of Repentia or Zeraphim. That would be interesting to know, actually. I mean, maybe that's why people run it and they try and spend a couple of turns trading those 90-point assault squads. But yeah, I mean, those expensive Death Company squads and expensive Sanguinary Guard squads, I know for a fact that they can be zeroed by the Repentia and Zeraphim. And if when they're zeroed, it's too much to lose, dude, for a 100-point squad, right? Alright, we got Dante as the Warlord, we got Lamartez with Canticle of Hate and Exoration of Rage, which I don't know what it does because I never run Chaplains. I did run Astaroth for a couple of times this last month, but this gives +1 to wound within 6 of the priest. So I feel like that's probably a low value pick because it obviously doesn't stack with the Blood Angels +1 to wound. Yeah, I mean, killing the Repentia is fine, right? It's the fight on death with the Repentia that's the problem. Okay, we got the Sanguinary Priest with Rites of War, and this is how I like to run the Priest. Okay, so cool. So someone is running the Priest how I like to run him. The reason he's going to have 5 CPs is because he's got Dante as a Warlord, so he's going to have spent 1 other somewhere else. Alright, we got 2 squads of Assault Intercessors, and then we got a 10-man Intercessor blob with bolt rifles. I don't think intercessors ever need to be more than 5 man. They don't do enough damage for the points they spend. You can also take a free chainsword on the squad of intercessors. You should just know that anyway. So I'd take 100 points off here straight away. We're going to use that somewhere else. You've got 3 squads of Death Company, 4 hammers, an infernal pistol, and power sword in every squad. I mean, on paper that sounds all fine. You got the Sanguine Ancient with the Wrath of Baal. Again, that sounds fine. I mean, I guess you're joining the club of having like quite a lot of points spent on characters. You got 2 squads of Sanguine Guard. They're both 7s, 1 infernal pistol and 2 infernal pistol. It's swords throughout. Again, putting in a couple axes can work here. And then you got the Melter Rifle, Eradicators. You're thinking Fury of the Lost, Blade of Sanguinius, Relentless Assault. What character are you doing Relentless Blade of Sanguinius on? Dante? Because I don't know if I feel like Dante is a character killer. Yeah. Sanguinor solves the Repentia problem. I mean, he can. Remember that Angel Sacrifice will only work for models with an engagement range. So, like, you can maybe place a Sanguinor where you can absorb like a couple of the Repentia, but I think like fight on death units can still consolidate, they can still pile in. The Sanguinor can help. We really don't see the Sanguinor get any play at the moment, do we? I think he needs some improved rules or a points drop. Mark says dump Exoration of Rage. It's useless except on turns when not getting the Blood Angels chapter bonus. Yeah, I mean, I guess he's just banking on the Death Company remaining in combat for more than one turn. But when you've got 4 hammers and an infernal pistol and a power sword, I feel like you're not going to be stuck in combat. You're usually going to do enough where if you don't kill the unit, you at least wound the unit heavily enough that you should kill it in the return combat, even without the +1 to wound, right? I mean, Thunderhammers, even without the +1 to wound, are usually wounding on 3s, right? How are you trading as Blood Angels with a full Terminator, 10-man Terminator squad played against SMC last week? -1 to wound, no rerolls, 1+ AOC in cover, need advice. Like, Terminators are slow, man. How I like when I play against Death Guard and they run 10. What are they called? I forget what the name of the Terminators. Blightlord Terminators are called. I don't engage them usually. If I can avoid them, like 10 Blightlord Terminators can hold 1 objective usually on the map. So just and it's a 400 point unit. So any Terminator squad is going to be like 400 points. If you can just ignore a 400 point unit, let them hold 1 objective and fight over the other 5 objectives with the other 4 objectives, you basically make it a 2,000 point versus 1,600 point game, and you win the game because our models are much faster and the Terminators can never get in combat with you. It's the same as like playing against Abaddon in a way. Like, Abaddon arrives on the battlefield for his 9-inch deep strike charge, right? Hey, Bomb, good evening. Thank you so much for being a member for 12 months. I do appreciate it. Abaddon arrives in the battlefield. Honestly, after Abaddon arrives in the battlefield, I'd just run away from him. Like, there's no reason to fight him. He moves, 5 or 6 inches a turn? All our stuff moves 12. So unless he gets, unless he can roll, like, a 12-inch charge after the turn he runs in and fights one time, just run the fuck away from him. Like, it's the same with... I've been to tournaments multiple times now where I've come up against like 10 Deathwing Terminators, 10 Blightlord Terminators. I think I came up against 10 Khorne Terminators as well. And I was just like, right, great, you park your 400 point unit on that objective and I'm just going to let you have it. And I'll just rotate around the map with my 12-inch or 14-inch move across my army for the most part. And you can have that one objective. And like, I think when I played the Khorne Terminators, I actually don't think they did anything in the entire game. Like, they never got into combat. They never even got to shoot anything. They just held an objective. If you want to pay 400 points to hold an objective, then fine, Nick. I mean, like, make the game 2,000 points against 1,600 and win elsewhere across the battlefield. All right, LMK. What do I not like? this intercessor squad needs become a 5-man Incursor squad. Maybe even run the second 5-man Incursor squad here. That gives you like 80 points. What can you do with 80 points? Well, I mean, with 80 points, I guess you could get an attack bike, you could get a land speeder. You said you were going to do relentless assault, so both an attack bike and a land speeder, maybe even more so, would help with relentless assault, right? A multi melt on there gives you a bit more mobility to your meltifier. I was going to say, I don't. Some of you guys love Lamartis. What does Lamartis bring to this list? It just gives him the 4th character for Fury of the Lost? Like, what? Why do people think Lamartis is the better choice over Astaroth, right? Is it just because he's cheaper? Because Astaroth can do more damage. Death Company don't need to take any morale. He gets that special litany. I mean, as far as I'm aware, all Lamartis does is give you a reroll charge. I was looking at Exploration Rage, but for successors the other day. Yeah, I mean, it could be decent for a successor chapter, Highland Phoenix, if you were going to go like, if you're going to take something different as your chapter master tactics. Lamartis is the OG way, is he?
Jaegerbomb2 donated $5 via Super Chat. Going to do Horse Heresy List 2. Blood Angels have good exclusive for that game. Optimistic about Angels getting similar love in 40k soonish. Smile with a halo.
Yeah, I mean, we were all hoping for Blood Angels to get some optimistic re-releases or new releases in 40k, aren't we? I mean, there's been so many rumors about that new 10th edition starter box having like, well, they at one point it was going to be Blood Angels exclusive models, then it was going to be like maybe models that could be painted in Blood Angels. Who knows? I'm not doing Horus Heresy lists yet. I've got a lot actually on my plate with Blood Angels right now. Like I got maybe, I don't know, like 50 infantry and like 4 more vehicles to paint, which is crazy considering how much stuff I have. So yeah, I've got a lot on my plate at the moment actually. So yeah, it's I would like to buy the Horus Heresy starter box, Jaegerbomb, and thank you so much for the 5 USD. I do appreciate it. I think I will buy it, and it's just a matter of time, really. I was really glad it's not Fear of Missing Out box, because I hate those Fear of Missing Out boxes. So I might have bought it already, I guess, if it was the Fear of Missing Out. But I'm sure I'm going to buy it at some point. I'm about to try the Gladiator tank for the first time. I think I should have. I commissioned a Gladiator from Mike, who I think was in the chat earlier. So I think he said he was sending it to me on Saturday. So I might have my Gladiator tank this week. Hold on, my wife's just texting me. I need to reply to this 1 second. Okay. Cool. So so Lamartis has the Death Company keyword, so he can score. He can score through the lost points when he dies, and also okay. I guess that's why you run Lamartis. Okay, I guess that's not a bad choice. It gives you an extra victory point. He still has some synergy with the Death Company. So this is, the intercessors, the 10-man intercessors makes no sense here. It's wasted points. No Phobos units as well, or Phobos troops is weaker. And then I've been to a tournament as well where my only fire support was the Whirlwind and 1 squad of Eradicators. I think if you want to make Eradicators work, you need more than 3, is my opinion. I think I've heard some people say that they can get like a lot of value out of 5 Eradicators. So maybe either 2 squads of 3 or a single squad of 5. So maybe that's what I would do then with this list, is I would drop 5 of these Incursors. I would change 2 of these to Incursors. Sorry, drop 5 of these Intercessors, so that gives me 100 points. I would change 2 squads to Incursors, that cost me 15, that leaves me 85. I would then, what are these, 90? So I would need to spend 90 points to make this into a 5-man squad of Eradicators. So I would drop something that costs 5 points, which to me I think it would just be probably one of these power swords, and just replace it with the default chainsword or one of these infernal pistols. I think probably drop the power swords actually, so on one of the squads, and then that would give you those 5 Eradicators, and I think that would be a lot stronger. I think you could probably still do what you wanted to do, LMK. Hopefully that would work. And then the other thing I'd probably do here actually is I think I'd put the Warlord trait Soul Warden onto my Sanguinary Ancient so that I have my bubble of Feel No Pain Against Mortals. I think that helps a ton around the Sanguinary Guard. I think it will also help a ton around those Death Company, and I think there's enough mortal wound output in the game that Soul Warden is just so valuable right now. Mark says, if like in an all melee list, if you got your opponent's trigger shy to charge by turn 3, you're probably in board control. Sorry, I missed what you guys are talking about. Say your opponent doesn't charge in turn 2, and then you have to bring the Sanguiner down normally in turn 3, or risk him dying or doing nothing. Yeah, I mean, I think if the Sanguiner was a good pick, I guess he would be in lists. Like, people would be submitting lists with the Sanguiner. I think that there's a cool idea that they gave him that rule. But I think there's just something not quite right with that rule that just doesn't make it quite strong enough. I think he needed something a little bit more. Okay, so Mr. Smith's government class is the next list today. He is a captain on a bike for HQ hunting. He is a sanguinary priest for wound healing, feel no pain, and doctrine changing. He is a lieutenant for reroll wounds and quake bolts for assault intercessor squad. He's an ancient for Wrath of Baal. He has assault intercessors for getting into melee and tearing fresh, HQ hunting aerial denial. He's infiltrators for denying deep strike. He's intercessors for shooting. I never take intercessors. I don't think their shooting justifies their points cost. Not for Blood Angels anyway. He's Vanguard veterans. For the 4-up, I guess, so he's holding onto the Storm Shields, he's got the Sanguinary Guard, and he's got Assault Squads, who are Action Monkeys. Okay, so we've got a captain on a bike who is... Oh, this is Flesh Tearers. Oh, he didn't say that. Okay, so this is the Flesh Tearers list. Okay. Creationborn. I forget what Creationborn is. It's been a little while since we looked at it. Apparently I can't spell it either. Oh, it won't be on this page because this isn't Flesh Tearers. Hold on. Flesh Tearers. Will it? Here we go. Flesh Tearers. Okay. Creationborn. Each time a Warlord makes a charge, no Overwatch set to defend, and you can reroll charges. Okay, so he also has Gift of Foresight. Can you do that? Can you take... I don't think you can take Creationborn and Gift of Foresight. Like, you're mixing chapter Warlord traits at that point. Am I right there? You then have... what's this? A Thunderhammer and a Storm Shield. Oh, I mean, the Storm Shield is kind of wasted on the Bike Captain because he's toughness 5 with Armor of Contempt. He's a 4-up invulnerable anyway, so I'd save the 10 points. I'd actually swap this out for an Infernal Pistol. I think that's a good shout. It makes it 165 points. Yeah, maybe that would make sense. Yeah, if the Sanguiner had the ability to make the enemy fight last, so when he arrives he gets to fight before they just instantly kill him off, then I would be much more on board with that. I mean, they could do that. That would make him really good. Yeah, Mark says you can't do that. So I guess your second Warlord trait needs to be swapped out for something. But yeah, yeah, I don't know what it would be. You could always maybe give him a relic like the Hammer of Baal or something. If you're going to go character hunting, or Mastercraft the Thunderhammer. All right, we have a lieutenant who has a pair of lightning colts and quake bolts, I guess, for his bolt pistol. I kind of feel like if you want quake bolts, you want longer range than 12 inches on your quake bolts. Like, you want a bolter, I think. My opinion. You then have the Chief Apothecary with the Selfless Healer. We've seen that a lot today. Okay. You have a 10-man Assault Intercessor squad, and don't see the value in this. I mean, the only value in the 10-man Assault Intercessor squad, I guess, is because you can pay 2 CP to fight a second time. I just think that you'd be better just spending those 100 points on like elites, like a Death Company with chain swords or something like that. The mobility, like 5 Assault Intercessors, 95 points. 5 Death Company with chain swords are 105 points. Your Assault Intercessor is likely to get killed trying to get across the battlefield again because they can't jump cover to cover, so the points on the Death Company would be much better. You have 2 squads of Infiltrators, which is fine. I guess that's a lot of board control. You have 2 10-man squads of Intercessors. I mean, these guys just need dropped. Intercessors are not good, or they're not a good choice for Blood Angels. You might be better running them as Death Company Intercessors, I guess. They would get 1 more attack. I actually have no idea. Like, if you've got the models and you're trying to run what you have, Death Company Intercessors, not that we ever see these guys. How many points are they? They're 20 points per model. So they're actually, Death Company Intercessors are the same point cost as Intercessors? I mean, if they are, it just shows that... yeah, okay, so it just shows that Intercessors are overcosted at 20 points per model. Maybe they should be 18, because Death Company get 1 more attack and Feel No Pain as well. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like you're using all your elite slots, so I would just drop all... I mean, if these are the models you have and you need to use them, just swap these out for Death Company Intercessors. Get more attacks. 1 per model, and you also get a 6-up Feel No Pain, so you're more survivable. Yes, you can't perform actions, but I mean, why do you need to perform actions when you already got 2 Infiltrator squads that can like relocate and form actions and guerrilla tactics and stuff anyway? You just do them with that. Yeah, so, but realistically, these aren't good. Intercessors aren't a good unit for Blood Angels. The damage output of them is poor. They have no AP in combat. You'd be much better off having Death Company with like power swords or just Sanguinary Guard, etc., etc. You have the Ancient with the Wrath of Baal, and you then have 5 Sandguard, which isn't big enough squad. They're all axes. Again, I would switch with swords and axes. You have Vanguard Veterans with all chain swords. Relic Blade and Storm Shields. I mean, Chainswords got a lot weaker, right? Like, into Armor of Contempt units, Chainswords are really not great. This squad is also really expensive now. I much prefer the idea of, like, a Chainsword and a Lightning Claw. I think that's a much better choice. I could maybe be okay with Lightning Claw, Storm Shields, but, like, when I used to play Vanguard Veterans with Chainswords, the Chainswords are just there to be the cheap guy that dies when the squad takes wounds, right? Like, 1 AP on a chainsword now into Armor of Contempt means you don't kill anything with chainswords if you fight an Armor of Contempt model or unit, so I don't like it. And then you've got 2 assault squads with an Infernal Pistol and a Combat Shield on the Sergeant. You know the Sergeant can take a Power Sword or a Lightning Claw for free, and you can also put 2 plasma... You can replace 2 of these Bolt Pistols for Plasma Pistols, again, for free, and you should probably do that, because that will make the squad better. Yeah, this list needs a lot of work, honestly. It feels like more of a like starter player list. Maybe that's rude to say. If you're not a starter player, then I'm sorry, but like it needs Death Company. It needs. I think you. Here's the dilemma that we have as a Blood Angels player. If you want to have a strong list, you need, or Flesh Tearers as well. You need to have 2 squads of Death Company. You need to have 2 squads of Sanguinary Guard. I think that's like the minimum. If you then want to embrace all melee, then add that 3rd squad of both. If you then want to embrace some fire support, then add your fire support, be it Redemptor Dreadnoughts, be it Storm Speeders, Land Speeders, Attack Bikes, whatever. But like, this many points on troops, which is like 800-900 points on troops, like, I dislike spending 290 points on troops. So this is the opposite problem before, like when I said like don't spend over like 400 points on characters. don't spend over 350 points on troops. Like, if you want to go in infiltrators, and, you know, the infiltrators are 120 points per model, so you have to go to, like, 350 if you want 2 squads of them. And don't ever spend more than 350 points on troops. Don't ever spend more than 400 points on characters. Like, you're not going to get the value out of the troops. You're certainly not going to get the value out of bolt rifle, like -1 AP at 24 inches. It's, for lack of a better word, it's kind of crap, right? Yeah. I mean, if you submitted a list, you obviously watch this army show. I don't typically do all that much Flesh Tearers content, but, like, you're still going to get, like, a lot of value from Sanguinary Guard and Death Company. I think you want to be running two of each. And I think the minimum size of the Sanguinary Guard is 6 models. The minimum size of the Death Company is 5 models. I mean, I think the preferred size for the Death Company is 5 models. And with the Death Company, you want, like, 3 or 4 special weapons, be it Thunderhammers, be it Power Swords / Infernal Pistols. And with the Sanguinary Guard, for every 7-man squad, you maybe want 1 squad. You either go no Infernal Pistols or you go minimum 2. And that's, like, the bottom line. And that should be, like, I guess that should be 800 or 900 points, the core of your army. And, like, right now, the big unit that you have that's going to be able to do a lot of damage, like 2 wound, 2 damage weapons, is 5 Sandguard. And that's not going to be enough. It's just not. Yeah. That's my opinion. You're more than welcome to come into the chat, leave a comment, ask for some more feedback. But yeah, I don't like being mean to people's armies, but I also like, yeah, if you're playing like a lower base game, or if you were playing Crusade or something, that's fine. If you want to take this to a tournament, like if I came up against this in a tournament, Mark, like I would slaughter this, like, because these 20 intercessors, they're never going to have any target to shoot at, right? The only target they'll ever have to shoot at is maybe my attack bikes. And strength 4 -1 bolt or fire into attack bikes is going to do nothing. Or maybe they can shoot against my toughness 6 storm speeder. So again, that's going to do nothing. So that's 400 points that's going to do nothing into my list. If he had a 10-man squad of assault intercessors, again, unless he reserves them, they're going to do nothing, because I'm never going to let him charge me. I'm just going to stay far enough away. And then a giant squad of chainsword van vets, yeah, they might take a little bit of shifting because they're 4-up save, but chainswords aren't going to scare me, because I'll engage them with a squad of Sandguard or something, so they're chainsword. So literally when he attacks me, I'll save on 2s. And then assault squads with a single Infernal Pistol and chainswords as well. I'm going to save on 2s against everything with an Infernal Pistol. 1 Infernal Pistol is hit or miss. So it's like, yeah, I don't want to be mean, but this list needs a lot of work if it's going to be competitive. Clint says he likes 5 intercessors. Yeah, I mean, I could be okay with 5 intercessors, Clint. I don't hate 5. You know, as long as you've got like a unit of Phobos in there, because I think the guerrilla tactics ability of the Phobos helps a lot late game. I haven't actually done it so much recently, but I haven't had the need to do it. But I think that as long as you have 1 unit of Phobos in there, I'm probably okay with you running a couple of squads of intercessors. I'd say when you see this shit, just give your opinion and use it as a tech lesson as you've done respectively. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying. I'm not wanting to beat anyone up. I'm trying to give suggestions. Yeah. I just like I guess like when I play a game, I play for fun, sure, and I play my friends and I try and have fun with it. But I never go there without, like, you know, when I play, like, the first thing that's in my head is like I am gonna crush my enemy. You know, like, what is best in life? To see the lamp. God, it's been a while since I've watched Conan the Barbarian. Is it not like to? I'm pretty sure that it was what is best in life is to crush your enemies, right? So like when I make a list or when I go to a game, I 100% want to crush my enemy. Like for a long time when I played 40k, I didn't really care about secondaries. I just cared about killing the opponent. when I was a bit younger, you know, like I'd lose games because like I was just intent on like killing all their models. So yeah, if I see a list like that and I'm playing it in a tournament, I'm gonna crush it, and I'm gonna end up probably feeling bad for the other person because like I'll score 95 points and they'll maybe score 20, and no one wants to turn up at a tournament and get beat 95 to 20, right? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of their woman. You are 100% right, Crozer. I've not watched that movie in a long time. I always wondered if Arnold was going to go back and do another Conan movie. All right, here's Peter's list. Peter is a channel member. He's been in the channel quite a lot recently. Peter, I do appreciate the membership and thank you for leaving a list for review. Some of the weapon options are such the plasma pistol and the assault sergeant and power fist on the Sangor guard is because that's how I've got it modeled. Isn't that just the problem? Isn't I mean I'm doing the same thing. Sometimes people have models done a certain way. You have to deal with it. All right. 2,000 points, 2 CP. We've got Dante. He is not the Warlord, notably, so we're not getting +1 CP here. We have Veil of Time out of his heroes Null Zone, Soul Warden, Chief Librarian, Psychic Mastery, and the Warlord on the Librarian. Why? Oh, he's the Warlord because you've given him Psychic Mastery and Soul Warden. Okay, I guess I understand that. It's a little bit risky, I think, because typically Null Zone to me is like it's a great power, but usually when you cast Null Zone, your Librarian dies, unless you have the screening on point. You often find your Librarian dies from Null Zone. So I'm a little bit in two minds about like giving him Soul Warden and Psychic Mastery. So we're going to pay 2 CP on him and make him the Warlord. And then he's potentially going to die. Like, I kind of would like Dante to be the Warlord here to give you back that 1 CP. But I do know that Soul Warden is super important. I do know Psychic Mastery is super important. So I understand it. But I feel like it's a tough choice to have to make. We got the Priest, who has Rights of War, and I think that's correct. And I think Teeth of Terra is a good choice for the Priest if you want him to be in good. If you want him to do combat, he needs Teeth of Terra. He sucks with just a chainsword. Teeth of Terra gives him 8 attacks once he's an Assault Doctrine, and those attacks are Strength 5, -2 damage. I guess they become -3 when he's Assault Doctrine. So he becomes scary with the Teeth of Terra. If you don't give him the Teeth of Terra, I guess he's just there, 120 points to get yourself into Assault Doctrine and occasionally heal some damage and maybe jump on an objective and Rights of War it. So I understand this. I think it's decent. I don't run him like this myself, but I can understand this. I think it's, if you want the Priest to be able to fight, this is the way you build them, right? The Assault Intercessor Squad with a Plasma Pistol and the Sergeant. I mean, ditch the Plasma. I'd much rather have a Power Sword on the Sergeant. I think a single Plasma Pistol is fine. I think a Power Sword on the Sergeant is much better if you're going to spend the 5 points. 2 squads of Infiltrators is good. The Death Company with 4 hammers and the one guy with the chainsword is good. 2 Redemptors with the Rocket Bods, the Stormbolters, the Macros, and the Onslaughts. And I think this is good. This is the way that I would run the Redemptors. Carter says Soul Warden is key. I'll have it in every list. Yeah, I run it in every list at the moment. I think Rights of War and Soul Warden are best Warlord traits. Is anyone running Soul Warden a character and Litany of Faith on a Chaplain at the same time? I don't know if you need that. I mean, if you're running Soul Warden somewhere on your army and you're running Sanguinary Priest somewhere else in your army, I think that's enough protection against Mortal Stark Ginger. I mean, obviously Litany of Faith would be better, but like at some point something has to give. You can't put all your eggs in one basket for protection against mortals, right? We then have Sanguinary Guard ×2, and it's both 7s, and it's 2 Infernal Pistols, 3, sorry, and in one squad, and it's 2 in a Power Fist in the other one. I mean, I guess the Power Fist is fine, but ultimately I'd probably lose it. A mix of swords and axes, which I like. Slight emphasis on the swords as well, which I like. I'd rather just do 3 Infernal Pistols in both, but you said that you had it modelled this way, so that's the way it's going. You have the Vanguard Veterans, couple of Thunderhammers, and 4 guys with double Lightning Claw. I mean, the Vanguard veterans to me are still decent. Having a couple with storm shields and a couple without, or 4 without, is good because it gives you options on the saves. And then a land speeder with the multi melta is also pretty decent. You know, I've seen lists like this do pretty well. It's a little bit sad you don't have the whirlwind, but I get why. When you're having the double redemptor, it's hard to fit the whirlwind in there as well. The Death Company, the double Sandguard, the Vanguard Veterans, and double Redemptor. I mean, this is actually a well balanced Blood Angels list in terms of like it does some shooting, the double plasma, the double onslaught, the double rocket pods. Obviously, they can get Chapter Master rerolls, and Dante can probably hang out with them a little bit. You have the Null Zone to combo with either those Thunderhammers or the Sanguinary Guard swords. I would say though, if you are going Null Zone, I would possibly go more leaning into the swords here because axes aren't that great anymore with only -2 and -1 into Armor of Contempt. So Null Zone's not going to give so much value. Veil of Time to reroll charges, Might of Heroes to potentially make one of the Dreadnoughts toughness 8 and give it a bonus attack. And that's when I used to run double Redemptors. I always used to Might of Heroes the Redemptor that was basically on the front lines or the one they were going after, because making it toughness 8 definitely helped. Yeah, I mean, this is a well balanced list. If this was me, I guess, because I would be running a custom chapter master, and then I'd possibly take Soul Warden and put it on the custom chapter master, because then what that would give me is I would be less worried about casting Null Zone, because I would still have my Soul Warden somewhere else on the list. I'd also change out that Power Sword. I'd also change out that Power Fist here. I do wonder, like, you're only 55 points away from a Whirlwind. Would a Whirlwind help here over the Land Speeder? It'd be tough to find 55 points, though, I guess. The only way you could do it is, like, you maybe have to drop, like, one of the Vanguard Veterans with a Storm Shield. I guess that's, like, probably, like, 30 points. Or maybe that's actually closer to, like, 40 points now, actually. And maybe, like, one of the Infernal Pistols or the Power Fist. Yeah, I mean, maybe I would try and replace the Land Speeder with the Whirlwind. Just because it gives you that no counteroffensive, fight last, no Overwatch. That's probably what I would lean into. But, I mean, the double Redemptor Blood Angels list, especially with a Chapter Master, is good. Especially with a Null Zone, because those Plasmas have a lot of AP -4. So if you Null Zone something at range and then you hit them with double Plasma, it can vaporize things. You also have a bunch of Infernal Pistols, which also will vaporize things with double Plasma. With Null Zone. So, yeah, I mean, I've run very similar lists to Tournament. Very, very similar list, actually. I was going to say, maybe I'll see if I can pull up my similar list, and then I think this is tonight's last list, actually. So let me see. It was about a year ago, actually. Clan Wars. This was my list. Whirlwind, Double Redemptor. Oh, do you know what? This is older, so it did change a bit. So yeah, it was like Double Redemptor, Inceptors with bolters, Blade Guard veterans, attack bikes, that librarian with a jump back, the chapter master on the bike. This was a tech marine because it was obviously double Redemptor, and then what's that? 1/7 Sanguinary Guard, 1/6 Vanguard veterans. So the Vanguard veterans and the Sanguinary Guard are the exact same size, and then one squad of incursors. But I guess this was before. This was before, like, Soul Warden and Rights of War really became super popular. And I guess points costs were slightly different because Sandguard back then were like maybe 30. Was that when they were 32 points per model or something? A bit more expensive. And this was actually I had some company veterans. Maybe they're not showing in that photo or they're hiding somewhere. Don't know where the company veterans are. Maybe they're behind the land speeder or something. Oh, they're hiding. You can just see one of them behind here. Okay. So I had company veterans here because I didn't have because I was running Patrol Vanguard and I had attack bikes. How did this do? It beat Thousand Suns and Demons. This was actually victory over the guy that won. I think it was the Manchester GT. Victory against Drukari, victory against Harlequins, and Nullzone completely fucked the Harleys in that game. Victory against Admech, and then I got defeated in the final game of the day against Drukari. Still scored well, actually. That game against Drukari, though, made me question the Double Redemptor, because I lost that final game into Drukari because I couldn't open up his damn bolts. Because they have a 5-up invulnerable save, and he rolled hot on the invulnerable saves, and Redemptors are not effective. Like, you lose a lot, like... Redemptors are -5 in turn 1. Drukari are 4-up save, 5-up invuln. So you're basically losing 4 points of AP into Drukari bolts. And I left one of the bolts on 1 wound, and then it spilled out all these offset guys, and that game got away from me because of that bullshit. And I think that actually happened twice, where there was 2 of his bolts just survived and no more, because I didn't have an efficient way of opening up the bolts. But yeah, I mean, this is a decent list. Like I said, I ran it pretty well. You lost one game and made you question Redemptors. Yeah, but I mean, I guess I did. Yeah. Good point, I guess. But I think it was the way and the manner in which I lost it. With the Redemptors were not efficient at killing Drukari, and also the randomness of their number of shots on their plasma guns. Yeah, it was the two things that really made me question Double Redemptor. And I guess the meta when I played this was a lot different, right? And that yeah. That's usually how I do at tournaments. I usually go 4-1. And I think the last 3 GTs have been 4-1. I always win the first 4 and then fuck it at the final game. So we'll see. I've got another GT in 2 weeks' time. 3 weeks' time. So you'll probably see a tweet from me on the Saturday, or I'm 4-0, and then you won't hear from me because I'll fucked it on the final game again. But yeah, this is not bad. I don't really have anything to say. Maybe the one thing that I would like possibly is the Whirlwind. How do you decide between taking a land speeder and a attack bike? I mean, in the current meta, I think if you take attack bikes, you run 3 of them as a squad, and because they're core, you can give them all the Chapter Master rerolls. If you're not going to run 3 of them, and you just want to use them for Relentless Assault or for reserve or some sort of shenanigans, then I'd run the land speeders, because they're tougher and they got more toughness, they got more wounds, and they move faster, and they can also move over terrain, right? And also, because land speeders are vehicles, if you do have to take engage in all fronts, then they will score you engage in all fronts points, whereas attack bikes won't. Unless you're running a squad of 3, then they will. But if you're running a single attack bike, they won't. But if you're just gonna put one into reserve and pay the CP to put one into reserve, then the one thing about the attack bikes that I suppose is important is that attack bikes are only 2 power level, so it's very easy to put a squad of assault intercessors plus 2 attack bikes into reserve, bring in the attack bikes at the side of the board, more than 9 inches away but within 12 inches of the enemy, and then pump them with a multi-melta. And a multi-melta can do a lot of damage within half range, right? I've literally had it. I think it was against Rennie's Tau, where I brought in an attack bike at the side of the board, rolled to hit with the multi-melta, hit both times, rolled to wound both times. He failed both the saves, and then for the damage roll, I rolled double 6 within half range. So that's 6d6 plus 2. So it was literally 60-point attack bike came in from the edge of the board, and instantly just did 16 wounds to his commander or something, because he was the closest target. And I was like, I'm sorry. I was hoping to kill your commander, but I didn't expect to do 16 wounds to him with this one solo attack bike. But it happens. So that's at the moment, yeah, like I said, if you're going to run 3 attack bikes, Otherwise, probably land speeders. Land speeders are 10 points more, but I think the 10 points is made up with additional toughness and durability and movement rate, right? Okay, that is us for tonight. I promised you guys last week that we would get squats on the channel this week. I was speaking to Andrew earlier today to try and arrange a game against squats. I don't think it's going to be this Wednesday. It's going to be next Wednesday. So if you were waiting to see the squats, then it's probably going to be next week. You're more than welcome, Daryl. Please, any other questions you have, please just put them in your list, or please just put them in video descriptions, or hit me up in the community tab. And there was a problem where some people hadn't managed to get access to the members only room in Discord. I believe that is now fixed. If you go into Discord, if you go into settings, and you go into connections and link your YouTube channel in that connections panel, you should be able to access now our members only room. If you can't, leave me a comment and we'll get it fixed for you. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed tonight's video. If you did not see our little video earlier tonight where we were talking about the battle data slate, you could go over onto the community tab, and there is a link here for a half an hour chat on the Meta Watch, whatever you want to call it. The balance data slate for October, we had a chat about it earlier. So you can check that out now. That is on our podcasty channel where I do it with Mark and Tony. And if you want to subscribe over there as well, I would really appreciate it. If not, I'm sure I'll catch you guys sometime this week. And if anyone ever has any video suggestions or questions, you can leave them in the comments as well. And I'll see you guys soon. All right. By the blood are we made strong, brothers. Peace.